Hello again, this is Brother Teacher. Do I believe in Jesus? I made a reference to that name, Jesus, in a previous video, and perhaps in some videos that I've done over the past several years. And I want to clarify again. It is funny how we come into this world, a blank sheet of paper, I always say, and that we're given our program or our instruction and we just run with it. We don't question anything. We just believe the things that our parents, our grandparents, and their grandparents have passed on down the pike to us as being the truth. Something is wrong. Everyone that's listening to me under the sound of my voice right now, whether you be a regular subscriber or a new person, something is wrong when we accept just anything someone says to us without question. I mean, we are individuals, I would hope. And being an individual, you should have your own individual perception or perspective as it relates to every subject dealing with life. And we should not necessarily have to subscribe to something that was just told to us as being factual when we really indeed don't know. For example, if you go to church, any church, Baptist church, Methodist, Presbyterian, Pentecostal, Apostolic, whatever you choose to do, if you go to a church and there is a pastor, preacher, minister, speaker standing in front of you, and he or she is reading out of a book that they call the Holy Bible, and you're sitting there and they're saying a lot of things that sound good to you. Some things make you a little unsettled or uneasy because it's referring to hell and things of that sort. But they're very charismatic. They speak very well. They seem to be very informed. You should be studying that same book as well, as opposed to just believing verbatim and exactly what they're saying to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. In other words, have no problem questioning power, speaking to power. Have no problem with that. Now, the thing is, when you question power, you just have to do it in a certain way. You don't necessarily have to attack the person who's the messenger directly. You don't have to try to discredit them openly. You can speak to them in secret, in private, and ask them specific questions that you have concerns about as it relates to their message or their particular homily or the particular speech that they gave. Whatever the case is, you have the right to do that. But what has happened traditionally with many people is that they have been, as the old cliche or saying, just sheep following whatever the shepherd says and believing it for face value, that it's true. And many people have found out many years later that everything that was being told to them was not necessarily true. So, again, if you go to anybody's church and they're reading out of a Bible or whatever book it is that they're reading out of, you make sure that you have one as well. And do your own due diligence and that you follow and study so that you can be convinced and convicted in your own soul that what they're saying is right for you. Understand this. And for some people, overstand this. Everyone that has a congregation, a church building, so to speak, a synagogue or a cathedral, wherever they choose to have their particular meetings, does not mean that they're actually following the tenets of God. Doesn't necessarily mean that. it means that that person probably had the capacity or the ability to open up this facility, could have been financially sound, and they could have been a good marketer, and they have 4 or 5 hundred, 4 or 5 thousand, 10 or 20,000 members because they just knew someone or they just had the ability to compel people. And just because you have masses of members does not necessarily mean that you're telling the truth. That is a deception. That is incorrect. I have found in my travels that some of the most encouraging, influential, and spiritual awakenings occur in some of the smallest congregation or church congregations in America. Not the large cathedrals that cost millions of dollars to build. Not those places, not the assembly halls that house 5 or 10,000 people. It is the meager people. It is the small congregations that are having problems paying their bills sometimes, who have members who are pretty poor for the most part, humbling situations. It's the churches where they have pastors who have been married 10, 15, 20 years, or it's a family, I don't want to say business, but it's a family endeavor, and dad's still wearing shoes. I'm talking about the pastor that's running over a little bit and has probably a hole in his pants, missing a couple buttons off his shirt, and not this mega preacher who's standing up in front of this large mass of people, wearing Bugatti and all of this very expensive attire and gold watches and things of this nature. I'm not talking about those people. So you have to ask yourself, what am I here for? You are there to not say I belong to a church that has 20,000, 30,000 members. You are to say that I'm here to learn what it is that God would give me to know about Him and about my relationship to Him and what my relationship should be and where I'm going from this point. God is important, and He's the most important element of any so-called church. Now, FYI for some, even though we have used for many, many years the term church, I'm going to church, scripturally and realistically and truthfully, the church is the body of Christ. It is not a building. You are going to assembly hall. You are going to a synagogue or a tabernacle, physical tabernacle. You're not going to a church. You are the church. Wait one moment.